Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. It's an honor and a privilege to have you guys joining me here today as we're talking about Avengers Infinity War. All spoiler, all you'll want. And, we already did a live spoiler discussion on Sunday. However, I got a lot of you guys writing to me saying, more, we want to talk about it more, we want to do more. So here we are doing more, and we're going to do this. Now, there were a bunch of questions that didn't get answered on Sunday's live Avengers Infinity War discussion the other day, and that happened, so fine. So what we're going to do here today is we're going to do this installment, and then we're going to take any leftover questions today, combine those with the leftover questions from Sunday, and we're going to have a part 3 to this, although it won't be live, it'll be pre-recorded. There'll be a part 3 of the Avengers Infinity War spoiler discussion review that we're going to put up over there. Okay, so without wasting any time, let's just dive right into it, and let's get on to the actual Infinity War discussion here. Obviously, Infinity War, huge smash hit. It's broken the record for opening weekend at the box office. Who knows how good it's going to go? So let's get things started, and we'll start off with this. And the first question today will come to us from Luna Comics, who writes, Groot lifted third new hammer. Is Groot, oh, you probably mean Thor's new hammer. Groot lifted Thor's new hammer. Is Groot worthy? Well, it depends on how you look at it. I don't know if he lifted the hammer or not, because it wasn't a hammer yet. Remember, when Groot got to it, it was two pieces sitting there on the ground, right? It was just two random pieces sitting there on the ground. So it wasn't a axe or hammer yet. It was just pieces of it. He used his arm to assemble it, put it together, and it wasn't until he cut off his own arm that it became the axe. Because now the handle was attached, and now it was a complete thing. So I don't know if he was worthy or not, but I don't think that scene means anything, because when he lifted it, it wasn't yet complete. Stormbreaker wasn't complete until he chopped off his arm, and then it was complete. So that's just kind of how I interpreted it. Okay, TF writes, where were the war rhinos in the Wakanda battle? I know it's just a bit pick, but how awesome would it have been to see rhinos charging at Thanos? True. However, the way I interpreted their absence, remember, Wakabi was their trainer. They responded to Wakabi, and Wakabi is probably dead. They probably put him to death for treason. That's just the way I kind of interpret it. I think they put him to death for treason. So that's why I don't think they were in the movie. Pardon me, but you're right. It would have been awesome. It would have been awesome to see those rhinos in that fight. That would have been really cool. All right, Luna Comics writes, Thor learned he didn't need the hammer in Thor 3, but in this, he needs a hammer? Well, think of it this way. Remember, he still didn't beat Hela. I think what Odin was saying to Thor was that, look, you don't need the hammer to do what you need to do here. Because even with the hammer, he couldn't beat Hela. And he couldn't beat Hela without the hammer either. Like, he just couldn't beat Hela, period. But he didn't need the hammer to do what he needed to do, which was to save Asgard and get the Asgardians off of Asgard, right? Even though half of them were going to be killed by Thanos a little bit later, but he did save Asgard. To beat Thanos, he needed Stormbreaker. With or without the hammer, he couldn't beat Hela, but he could do what he had to do without the hammer. In this, he couldn't do it without Stormbreaker. So, but it was two different set of circumstances that he needed. Okay, Mary writes, I think Infinity War will do for Doctor Strange what Ragnarok did for Thor and Winter Soldier did for Captain America, with people realizing how cool he is. You know, it is pretty cool because, first of all, a lot of us love Doctor Strange, the movie, right? We love Doctor Strange. However, it wasn't until this movie that we see he is starting to become the Sorcerer Supreme. He's not the Sorcerer Supreme yet, but we see him now a bunch of time after the events of Doctor Strange, where he is more advanced now than he was before. And we see him starting to come into his power now. And we're seeing a more badass Doctor Strange now than we did before. Again, he's not Sorcerer Supreme yet, but we see him slowly starting to become that. So that's pretty exciting. Murray for Us writes, saw it a second time and I loved it much more than the first time. This is one of those rare movies that you need to see it again. But my only negative I have stands is no Hawkeye / Ant-Man. Well, they have their reasons. And on top of that, I mean, how many characters are they supposed to put in this movie? I mean, really. Oh, you know what? A second. This cable's going to come loose. Let me grab it really here quickly. All right. That should be much better now. Sorry about that. I've never had to do that before. I mean, the movie was over 2.5 hours long. We had 28 main characters, and you wanted more? To me, here's the thing. My one criticism about Infinity War, and you know how much I like the movie, but my one criticism about Infinity War, too much was going on, and there were simply too many characters. Because every character was underused. They were used the best that they could, and they balanced it out really nicely, but still, every character was underused. And I think if you added Hawkeye and Ant-Man in there, it just would have exacerbated the problem. So, and look, we're going to see more of Hawkeye in Avengers 4. We know that. We're going to see Ant-Man in just 2 months in his own standalone movie. So they're going to kind of have an explanation for that. So I'm fine with the fact. I mean, look, I also would have liked Hawkeye and Ant-Man, but I can't count that as a negative because it really would have really overweighted the movie, which was already overweighted as it is. Murray Frost follows up with, after seeing the film, I would never have dreamed that Luke would have more screen time in The Force Awakens than Ant-Man and Hawkeye did in Infinity War. That's not saying much. Luke Skywalker, not The Last Jedi, had more screen time in Star Wars The Force Awakens than Hawkeye and Ant-Man combined had in an Avengers movie. Think about that. This is a very good illustration, Murray. I like that. That was funny. Okay, let's see. Caleb Bradford writes, everyone blames Star-Lord, but it's also kind of Thor's fault. He could have killed Thanos if he had just aimed for the head. Well, here's the thing about that whole thing with, and we talked about this the other day too, nobody should blame Star-Lord for a couple reasons, okay? 2 reasons. One not so important one very important one. Reason number 1 they shouldn't blame Star-Lord is that Tony would have done the exact same thing. Iron Man would have done the exact same thing. No, he wouldn't have. Let's just look back at not Winter Soldier, but Civil War. When he finds out that Bucky is the one who killed his parents. Okay, I understand, but calm, rational thinking, it wasn't his fault. He was brainwashed. He was a victim. It wasn't him that did it. Yes, it was physically his body that did it, but it wasn't his choice or decision to do that. He was brainwashed. That's what the calm, rational thinking should have said. But Tony was like, I don't care. He killed my parents. Ah! And the fight continued, right? So here we have Star-Lord kind of in the same situation. Calm, rational thinking, hey man, hold it together. We almost got this glove off. You just found out this dude killed the love of your life. Ah! And he lost his cool. Iron Man would have done the exact same thing. You know how I know that? Because we've already seen him do the exact same thing. So it was an irrational moment that any character probably would have given in. But here's the second reason why people shouldn't blame Star-Lord, okay? And a lot of people saying, oh, everything would have been fine if it wasn't for Star-Lord. You know why? Because Doctor Strange said, I looked at 14 million, some odd thousand, hundreds of thousands, whatever, possible outcomes to this, and there's only one in which we win. That means he saw the outcomes. If Peter Parker and Tony had gotten that glove off Thanos, guess what? Thanos would have got it back and he would have won. Remember, Doctor Strange looked at all 14 million possible combinations of events and how it could have turned out. So even if they got that glove off his hand in that scene, Thanos still would have won. He still would have won. The only one out of 14 million possible outcomes included like Peter punching him in the face, Peter Quill punching him in the face, Thanos keeping the glove, Doctor Strange dying, everybody get dusted. That's the only way. Doctor Strange said, we're in the end game now. This was the only way. So don't blame Star-Lord too much because it had to happen this way. And on top of that, even if Iron Man had switched spots with him, Iron Man would have punched Thanos in the face too if he was in the same situation. So let's not be too hard on Star-Lord. Mary writes, Joe Russo said in a post-screening Q&A, that Spider-Man's death scene was improvised by Tom Holland. That scene got lots of buzz on Twitter afterwards. Yeah, the scene got lots of buzz. I mean, saying I don't want... There's not a lot of improvising to do in that scene. He's dying, and he kind of played it that way. It was great, but it's a very, very short scene. It's not like Robin Williams improvising like a 5-minute long scene or something like that. But it was a nice little thing. It was a nice little thing. It was a great moment of the movie. Again, the emotional oomph of the scene is taken away from me because I know he's coming back to life. He's coming back for Spider-Man 2. So that kind of undermined the emotionality of the scene. It still was a very good scene, and it still worked, and you still felt it. But it would have been so much more impactful if you didn't already know that he was coming back. So yeah, he's dying, but he's not really dying because we know he comes back. So it takes away a little bit of that for me. Caleb Bradford writes, do you think Avengers 4 Thanos could kill Black Widow, and that's what makes Bruce Hulk out in Ultimate Rage? I could see it happening. I don't even know how much Thanos is going to be in Avengers 4, to be honest with you. I'm not sure. I haven't seen the Russo brothers say anywhere definitively like that the big thing in Avengers 4 is going to be Thanos. It probably will be. I'm just saying I haven't seen anything definitive about that. That's one possibility. Something has to bring Hulk back out. Something has to bring Hulk back out. And I love what they're doing with Hulk, that for the first time in his existence, he's scared. He's never been beaten before. He's never been beat before. He thought he was invincible. And for the first time ever, he got put down. And that has made him retreat. And it's going to be really interesting to see what they do. And maybe that's the way they do it, is by killing off Widow. Although, I mean, Kevin Feige made it sound like they still have a lot of plans for Black Widow, but who knows? Maybe they kill her off. Let's see. Murray Frost writes, if Leia and Thor can survive in space, then give my Yondu back. Mary Poppins yell, well, yeah, except for two little things. Leia's a Force user, and Thor is the god of thunder. Thor is an Asgardian deity, basically. So there is a little bit of a difference between Yondu and Leia and Thor. So unfortunately, Yondu's gone. But I did love Yondu, man. I didn't want him to die. Let's see. Zombatron 5678 says, so Pepper is definitely pregnant, right? Yeah, that's kind of seemed to be what they were hinting at, right? That Pepper is going to be pregnant, or by the time we get to Avengers 4, she will be, or maybe they already have a kid. Look, I'm hearing some speculation that Avengers 4 actually picks up a couple of years later. Like, it doesn't pick up 5 minutes after the events of Infinity War. I'm hearing that it's a possibility it may pick up like a couple of years after the events of Infinity War. So maybe Pepper's pregnant then, maybe they already have a kid. I mean, there's a lot of possibilities that we have to consider. But maybe she's pregnant already. Maybe that's one of the things she was trying to tell Tony on that call that got cut off because he was on Maw's ship. Maybe she was trying to tell him, look, but anyway, we'll never know. We'll never know, at least not until Avengers 4 comes out. All right, Degoto1 writes, I love the movie, but do you agree that I think you meant Elba, not Elias, has been completely wasted in the MCU? No, not at all. No. I think the Heimdall character was a solid character, and I think they used the Heimdall character exactly right. Idris Elba is a great actor, but the character is not there to serve the actor, and the story isn't there to serve the character. The actor serves the character serves the story. You don't rewrite story just because, hey, Idris Elba is really famous. We should change our story just so we can put more Idris Elba. That's not the right way to do it. I've never felt that Heimdall was underused. I always felt like they used him perfectly. They used him great in the first Thor movie. They used him great in all the Thor movies. And I think they used him well here as being the guy who, the very last gasp, sends Hulk back to Earth to give the Avengers the head up that Thanos is coming. I think they used him well. So no, I don't feel like he was wasted at all. Oscar Flores writes, when Thanos launched chunks of the moon at Stark, and when Strange used his best spells on Thanos for only them to be countered each time, I lost my shit. It was a great fight. I mean, the whole fight on Titan was really, really good. Like everything from, Drax getting a couple of shots in on Thanos, Spider-Man using Doctor Strange's portals to scooch in, like they're playing the game Portal, to shoot in and give him a head kick or something like that. The way he even used, Doctor Strange used power discs that Star-Lord could bounce off of. I mean, and then Tony having some great moments as well. I mean, the whole battle on Titan was fabulous. But yeah, in particular, I mean, there are a couple of real show-off moments that the film used to show off certain characters. They really got a chance to show off Scarlet Witch and her power. They really had a chance to show off Doctor Strange and his power. They did a really good job of showing off Thor with Stormbreaker. I mean, there's a number of those scenes in there. But I'm telling you right now, I still think we are going to see, I'm not basing this on anything, just my speculation. I still think we are going to get the most powerful Hulk we've ever seen in Avengers 4. When you understand that theoretically there is no limit to the Hulk's strength and power, the angrier he gets, the stronger he gets. And I think we have just scratched the surface of the Hulk we're going to get in Avengers 4. I think we're going to get a Hulk on a whole new level in Avengers 4. I really do. But you're right, Oscar, a whole lot of great show-off moments in this movie. Mary writes, I don't think people were sad about Spider-Man because they really thought he was dead. It was more about the moment between him and Tony as it happened. I mean, no, that's absolutely true. It was a very well played out scene. It was a very well played out scene. And, I heard some people complaining about it, saying, Spider-Man's not such a wussy. He wouldn't be whining like that if he was crying. And I'm like, he's a 16-year-old kid. Yeah, but he's been in danger before. Yeah, but he's always been in danger. But he's got the power of the gods. He's one of the strongest characters in Marvel and one of the most powerful characters in Marvel, if you really want to read up on it. He always had something he could do about it. He faced danger, but he's Spider-Man, so he always has something he could do about it. Here he is now, a 16-year-old kid facing something he can't do anything about. His strength isn't going to help him. His webs ain't going to help him. His agility isn't going to help him. His spider sense isn't going to help him. He's dying, and he knows it. And he's scared, and he's a kid. Of course he was. So that drove me a little bit crazy when I hear people complaining about, why was Spider-Man acting like such a baby? Because he's a 16-year-old kid who realizes he's dying, and there's nothing he can do about it. So I thought it was a beautifully played out scene. I mean, notwithstanding the fact that it lost some of its emotional impact, because I just know Spider-Man's coming back anyway, it was a beautifully played out scene, and a very emotional scene. I thought it was really good. Zombitron writes, what if Ant-Man 2 ends with his daughter dusting? Oh, that's interesting. See, a lot of people speculating about what if Ant-Man 2 ends with Wasp dusting, which is possible. I don't think it's going to be Ant-Man dusting because we see him in the set photos. But what if it's his daughter that gets dusted? Oh my God, you want to talk about motivation? You want to talk about, yeah, I hadn't even considered that. That's a great theory, Zombitron. Maybe that's what happens. Let's see. Thanos Knows All writes, were characters who dusted chosen to save money on Avengers 4? Oh, no, I don't think so. No. Look, Disney does not have to worry about, let's save money on some of the actors. They don't, Disney doesn't have to worry about that. And clearly they don't worry about that. Look, if they just didn't want to have as many actors in the next one, they just would have not had certain characters involved in the story. It just would have been that simple. Just like that. Easy breezy, no problem. So no, they didn't kill off characters just to save money on Avengers 4. That was not one of the motivations. Jedi Knight and friend of Captain Solo. Will people who dusted remember after coming back? I don't know. That's a good question. I got a feeling they will. And I like how you are just you just know the way you phrase a question. Like we all just know they're coming back. Peter's coming back. Black Panther's coming back. The Guardians of the Galaxy are coming back because we already know Guardians of the Galaxy 3 is coming. We already know they're going to do a Black Panther movie. And they've already announced Spider-Man Homecoming 2. So we know they're coming back. So it's not a question on if they come back. No, it's when they come back, will they remember? I think they will. I think they will. I don't know that for sure, but I got no reason to think otherwise. All right. C10 Joker writes, Captain America and Panther outrunning everyone was awesome. That was such a glorious scene. Everybody running into battle and getting out ahead of them because they just both are itching to get into the fight. Is Captain America and T'Challa shooting out in front of all of them. I got actually right now. Can you see the arm, the hair on my arm standing up? Just thinking about that scene, man. I love that shot. That was awesome. Let's see. Metal Vegan writes, couldn't Thanos just double the size of the universe and make food for people instead of killing them? I don't think so. See, I've heard a bunch of people like kind of suggest that. I don't think that was an option for Thanos. First of all, it seems to me that would take a lot more power than maybe even the Infinity Gauntlet could have done. So it seemed like an awful lot. On top of that, probably Thanos' thing is if we just double the resources right now, the universe is just going to, like, the life in the universe is just simply just going to consume it all anyway at a greater rate. And we're just going to be faced with the same problem again. His idea, just kill everybody. It solves the problem. So that's probably the way he saw it. Let's see. Thunder Knight 19 writes, after watching Infinity War, was it pointless for Thor to lose his eye? Why was it like, here's the thing. Things happen. Things happen. Oh, if this happens later, then what was the point of doing that? Because that's what happens. That's what happens in life. Things happen. What was the point of that? I think the point of him losing his eye, there was a couple of things. One was another visible scar reminder of being beaten by Hela. I think it was a visual indicator for the audience of just how badly Hela was beating him. Like, she ripped his eye out, like, it's a constant reminder of that. And he didn't just get his eye, he didn't get an eye back. Okay? He got a cybernetic implant. But his eye got ripped out in a fight. I mean, so this whole thing about every detail that happens has to have, if it gets undone later, then there was no point of it. I disagree with that. I think there was lots of purpose to him losing his eye in Thor Ragnarok. And it's not like he just showed up in Avengers Infinity War and his eye was magically back and they never talked about him losing his eye. No, he lost his eye. But in that intergalactic environment of outer space where we see people with artificial arms and limbs, and there are, especially in the Guardians of the Galaxy areas of hanging out, those things exist. So why wouldn't he just get a cybernetic eye put back in? It's not his eye, it's a fake. Kind of like Winter Soldier, he didn't, he lost his arm. That thing he's got on there, that's not his arm. But he lost his arm. And it's not like every little thing that happens has to have a long-term meaning. Just things happen. And like I said, I think the oomph and the purpose and the effect and the power of Thor losing his eye was all for Thor Ragnarok. So to me, that was a huge moment in Ragnarok. When Hela ripped his eye out, that was a huge impactful moment for me watching that. That's why it happened. Now, what he does about it later on doesn't undo what happens here. It's not like a character dying and a character coming back to life. Like, it's a totally different type of a situation. So I saw no problem with that whatsoever. Oscar Flores writes, I believe Captain America will use Stormbreaker in Avengers 4. I doubt it. I don't see that happening. But first of all, remember Cap tried to lift Mjolnir before and he couldn't. He nudged it more than anybody else did. But he couldn't actually lift it. Why he would suddenly be able to do that with Stormbreaker? I don't know. Although I'll say this, I will freak the fuck out. If we get into Avengers 4, because you all know Captain America is my favorite character in the Avengers. If we get into Avengers 4 and Steve picks up Stormbreaker, I will lose my shit. I'll squeal. If you're in a movie theater in Los Angeles sometime and you're going out to see one of the first screenings of Avengers 4 and you see Steve Rogers pick up a hammer and you hear some grown-ass man in the back of the room going, ah! That's probably me. That's probably me. Because I will squeal like a fucking 7-year-old child. I'll be so happy and excited. It will be like the best thing ever to see Captain America wielding Stormbreaker. Oh my God, I will lose my mind. I will lose my mind. So I don't think it's going to happen. But oh my God, if it does, I will be so happy. That would be so great. Okay. Hector Jetta writes, you think the Stormbreaker handle turned into dust too? Well, no, because it wasn't part of him anymore. Remember, it's not like Thanos killed everybody. They didn't get erased from existence. It's not like somebody went back in time and stopped Groot from being born. Then maybe the arm disappears. But it's not. Groot died. Like somebody wrote to me and said, John, well, what if they didn't really die? What if they just went into the Soul Stone? Because remember, Thanos never said he wanted to kill people. He just said he wanted to balance the universe. And I had to remind this person, what has Thanos been doing the last 40 years? Going planet to planet, killing people. So yes, he completely believes in killing people and killing populations. He's totally into killing. He loves the killing. Killing gives him a hard-on. He loves killing. So make no mistake about that. It's just that whole thing, he didn't really want to kill anybody. That's what he's been doing the last 40 or 50 years, is going planet to planet and committing genocide, killing half the populations. So yes, he didn't go back in time, stop each of those people from being born, and they just disappeared because they didn't exist anymore. It's not like Back to the Future and Marty McFly playing Johnny B. Good and starting to disappear because he's never born. No, he killed everybody. He killed everybody. So it's a tricky thing to get around. It's a tricky thing to get around. So no, I don't think, therefore, since the arm was no longer a part of Groot, then the handle stays. I mean, it's no longer a part of him. It stopped being a part of him the moment he cut it off. Before they ever came to Earth, that thing got cut off. Now, if, like, Thanos was stopping Groot and all those other characters from being born, then the handle disappears. Here's my question, though. Here's my question. Why did Bucky's vibranium arm turn to dust? It was just attached to him, but it's not, biologically him. Here's a question. Why did everybody's clothes disappear too? Maybe it's just like maybe that's just the way the gauntlet killed everybody, just vaporizing them as they were, including anything that's on them at the time. Maybe that's what happened. Because look, Falcon, when Falcon dusted, his whole gear that he just has on as a backpack, his wings and everything aren't surgically attached to them. He just wears it. And it disappeared too. So I guess that's how it killed them all. It just, hey, just evaporate you as you are, and anything you're holding or anything you're wearing at the time just gets evaporated too, I guess. You know what's funny? That reminds me of something. Side note. During the last sequence, as everybody is pulling out the last stop, trying to prevent Thanos from getting to Vision, and Wanda's trying to destroy the stone, and Cap's jumping in there, takes a few shots at him. When War Machine flies in and starts firing shots at him, and Thanos just goes like this, and War Machine's armor starts to crumple in, and War Machine's, Rhodey's face just goes, I thought that killed him. When I was watching it, I thought when Thanos did like this and his armor just crumples, I thought that killed War Machine. Clearly it didn't because he's on his feet a little bit later, but I thought they killed him in that shot. Let's see. Z writes, Zombotron writes, chances we get Avengers Assemble in Avengers 4. I gotta believe it's gonna happen. We've now gone 3 Avengers films, 3 Captain America films, and we have yet to hear Avengers Assemble. At the end, I believe it was at the end of Age of Ultron. Was it at the end of Age of Ultron? I think it was, when that right at the end, Cap's about to say Avengers, and then the screen stops, right? So I think we were about to get it. I've got to believe we're going to get Avengers Assemble. Captain America yelling out Avengers Assemble in the 4th one. I got to believe it's finally going to happen. I really thought there was a chance we'd get it in this one, but it didn't happen. Jake C. writes, I don't know why he needed any other stone besides reality. Well, he needed power, space, and time to be able to do that. I think it's just, with all the stones, it's just far more powerful. It's far more powerful to be able to do it. To reach across space, to kill people all across space, you need the space stone. To kill, you need the soul stone. To do it all, you need it all powered by the power stone. I'm not going to pretend to know all the ins and outs about how the Infinity Gauntlet works. I've got my own Infinity, there it is, right there. I got my own Infinity Gauntlet right there, but I don't pretend to know how it all works. But it seemed to make sense to me as an audience member, oh yeah, he needs all the stones to be able to pull something on that scale. To pull something off on that scale, it seems to me he's going to need all the stones. Let's see. Hector Jeter writes, Shuri reach out to T'Challa in the spirit world. I don't think so. Hey, look, anything's possible. I don't see that being one of the things happening. Let's see. Kyle B. writes, I hope Avengers 4 does not undo everything in Infinity War, because that would feel like a waste of a movie. I will strap in. I think it's going to undo almost everything that was done in Infinity War. Here's what I think. My brother-in-law, Ray, he had a theory. I mentioned this the other day too. The theory was that everybody who died prior to the dusting is dead. That means Heimdall, that means Loki, that means Gamora, that means Vision. So his theory was everybody that dies prior to dusting, gone. Everybody who dies as a result of the dusting is going to be brought back. So I think we're going to see Avengers 4 undo a lot that happens in Infinity War, but I don't think it's going to undo everything. Like, I do believe Gamora is dead. Now, I'm hearing, oh, did you hear they're saying this and you hear this? Yeah, I do, but I believe they're going to have Gamora be dead. I don't want it to be, but I mean, I don't know. Look, here's the problem Marvel has painted for themselves. If they do bring back everybody who was dusted and they bring back Gamora as well, it's like, again, what's the big long-running complaint about the MCU? Fake killing, fake death, fake death, fake death. Oh no, Agent Fury is dead, like in Winter Soldier. And then at the end, just kidding, he's not. Oh no, Thor died, just kidding, he's not dead. Oh no, Loki's died. Oh, just kidding, he's not dead. Oh no, Steve died drowning in that river. No, we're just kidding, he's fine. I mean, and if they do that on a mass scale like this, I'm going to be disappointed, especially since Feige and the Russo brothers said a while ago, it's like, oh, no. When people dead in this thing, they're going to stay dead from now on. No, they're not. They're coming back. We know they are. But they got to have some sense of lasting consequence to the events of Infinity War. So, but who knows? I'm sure they've got a great plan. We're just going to have to wait and see. But I will be very disappointed if they just bring almost everybody back. Because then it'll be a little bit of, so you just undid everything in Infinity War? I mean, so I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But I'm sure they've got a really good plan. Murray for us writes, would have wanted to see everyone reaching to a talking Hulk. Hope we see an Infinity War. Would have wanted to see everyone reacting to a talking Hulk. Here's the thing, though. Thor didn't react to a talking Hulk on Sakaar. Thor didn't react to it at all. He had never heard Hulk talk. And he gets there, and all of a sudden he's talking to him. Hulk starts talking to Thor in complete sentences. And Thor didn't even blink. That was one of my little pet peeves. I love Thor Ragnarok, but that was one of my little pet peeves. Not even a, wait, you talk? Like, not even just a momentary thing. Thor didn't blink. It's like, oh no, Thor and I, Hulk has always talked to us. Hulk has always talked. This is no big deal. Hulk has always talked. I mean, really? So that was one thing. So I don't know that anybody in Infinity War would have even reacted if Hulk started talking. I don't think they would have reacted at all because Thor didn't. So I'm not sure that they would have either. It would have been cool to see though. All right. Caleb Bradford writes, any idea of what happens to Red Skull since Thanos now has the stone? Does he stay on Vormir all by himself? That's a good question. You know, somebody brought that up and I thought maybe that frees him to leave now. Because one of the stones banished him there, and then one of the stones basically made him the servant of the stone there. Maybe he leaves now. Maybe he becomes a part of Avengers 4. I mean, it was not Hugo Weaving, so they didn't need to get Hugo Weaving to come back. But oh my God, in that makeup, it looks like Hugo Weaving looked exactly in that makeup. It was crazy. So it's a good question. Is he still on that planet, or did he leave the planet? I'm not sure. We're gonna have to find out. But I think he leaves the planet, and I think he will play a part in Avengers 4. At least I hope he does, because I love the Red Skull character. Let's see. C-Spice says, maybe snap deaths are in the Soul Stone. I don't think so. I know there's some precedent for stuff like that. I know, but I just don't get the feeling that's the direction they're going. Like, they just died. And I think they just died. I don't think they were magically teleported into the Soul Stone. That was never part of what Thanos' plan was. He's wipe out half the universe. So I don't think so. It's possible. And C-Spice, you're not alone in that theory. I'm hearing a lot of people say that theory. And it very well could be. Very well could be. But I just never got the sense that's the direction they're going. That seems like a little bit of a cop-out. No, let me rephrase. It seems like a fucking huge cop-out if they do that. So I don't get the sense they're doing that, but you never know. It totally could be plausible because, like I said, you're not the only one who's been suggesting that. Sam Fisher writes, you talked about the difference between villain and performance. Well, character and performance. You said Thanos is the best MCU villain, but who has the best villain performance? Oh, I think that's no question. Heath, in the MCU or just overall? Overall, it's Heath Ledger as the Joker. Heath Ledger's performance is the best performance in a comic book movie villainous character we've ever seen. Of that, I have no doubt. In the MCU? Well, I mean, there's Loki. Tom Hiddleston as Loki I will always love that character because he was layered. He was complicated. There was dimensions to that character that Tom Hiddleston brought. And a lot of people forget, a lot of people forget this. You know how Tom Hiddleston got the Loki role? It was down to him and Chris Hemsworth for the Thor role. Tom Hiddleston was this close to being Thor. And they decided to go with Chris Hemsworth. They're like, but we love this guy so much, let's make him our Loki. And that's how Tom Hiddleston became Loki. So, and it's great. It's great that he did. Hugo Weaving as Red Skull, Michael Keaton as Vulture, Michael B. Jordan as Killmonger. Man, I'd say it probably comes, I don't know. I want to say Loki, but there's strong arguments to be made for Michael B. Jordan as Killmonger. There's strong arguments to be made for Hugo Weaving as Red Skull. I'd have to agonize about that and think about it. I really would. I'd have to agonize about it. Let's see. C-Spice writes, what do you not want to see in Avengers 4? Just everybody coming back to life. Just everybody, no problems. Everything that happened in Infinity War, don't worry about it. Everybody comes back to life. I don't want to see that. Of course I want Loki to still be alive. And of course I want Heimdall alive. And of course I want Gamora alive. And of course I want everybody. But you can't just keep fake killing everybody. If you remember going into Infinity War, I said, I don't think they have to kill anybody. Remember? I don't mind if they don't kill anybody. That doesn't lessen the stakes. What lessens the stakes is when you kill people that you know really aren't being killed. When you know they're coming back. That's what lessens the stakes. If they went through all of Infinity War and all the characters survive, I think that would have been okay. That would have been fine. If they came up with a good reason why that happened, I would have been fine with it. But what does lessen the stakes is when you say you're killing people, but you know they're just coming back anyway. That lessens the stakes. So what I don't want to see is just, whoop, everybody's back to life now. Yay! And that will never be affected again by another death in the MCU because we'll never believe they're actually dead. I was actually a little bit surprised that Quicksilver didn't come back, to be honest with you. All right, Lord of Thunder, Prince of Stars writes, that hopelessness when Thanos reverses time. Ugh, oh my God. I remember that scene, man, when Scarlet Witch finally blows the stone, right? I know some of you are snickering for what I just said. Let me rephrase. When Scarlet Witch finally destroys the stone, just bring on that filthy. When Scarlet Witch destroys the stone, I was like, oh my gosh, we're going to see Thanos look so disappointed, right? Thanos is going to look so disappointed and he's going to be angry and all this kind of stuff. And he didn't. And I remember thinking, okay, wait a minute. Why does Thanos not look so mad? Why does Thanos not look too terribly torn up about the fact that the stone was just killed? Like, why did that not happen? And then you realize, oh my gosh, he's turning back time and undoing what she just did. She's turning back time and undoing everything she just did. And as an audience member, I felt, just like you're pointing out Lord of Thunder, I felt as an audience member the hopelessness of the situation. I felt the hopelessness of that situation. The same hopelessness that I'm sure Scarlet Witch now suddenly felt, because now she had to watch Vision die again. She had to watch him die at her hand, and then she had to watch him die again. And you're right, that scene was a perfectly directed, perfectly laid out scene that you're absolutely right. We as the audience also felt the hopelessness. And that was awful. That was awful, but awesome at the same time. Heston Roberts writes, are Infinity Stones most powerful MacGuffin on film? I don't know. I mean, probably my first thought is Raiders of the Lost is the Ark in Raiders of the Lost Ark. Probably the most powerful. We didn't see a full display of its power, but probably the Ark. I'm going to go the Ark on that one. C-Spice writes, what would make Thanos fight again in Avengers 4? He seemed retired at the end of Infinity War to me, wondering if Avengers 4 will be as big as this one was. I'm not really sure. See, because here's the interesting thing too. Clearly, the gauntlet still worked because after, he had Stormbreaker in his chest, he was able to summon, using the Space Stone, he was able to summon a vortex so he could get out of there. But we also saw that the gauntlet was pretty much wrecked. I guess using that much power to kill half-life in the universe, I guess that took a toll on the gauntlet and it looks kind of wrecked. So how functional is the gauntlet at this point? He was still able to summon a portal to get out of there, but how functional is that gauntlet now? And then how much do you really need of Thanos? I mean, I don't know. It's a great question. And again, I'm sure they got a great plan. We're just going to have to wait and see, I suppose. Gabriel sends in a super chat. Thanks so much, Gabriel. Boy Chow Sang writes, Infinity War is the kind of movies you unconsciously love. I don't know, man. I kind of consciously love that movie. I'm not quite sure what you mean by unconsciously love, because I'm very cognitive of my love for this movie. So yeah, I'm not quite sure what you mean, but I love it. And clearly you do too. Joshua Stevens writes, better comic book villain, Thanos or Lex Luthor? Which incarnate? Well, are you talking comic book villain or comic book movie villain? Those are two different questions. Those are two radically different questions. Comic book movie villain? Even if you're talking about comic book movie villain, which Lex Luthor? Gene Hackman's Lex Luthor? Kevin Spacey's Lex Luthor? Michael Rosenbaum's Lex Luthor? Thank you, I almost forgot his name. Jesse Eisenberg's Lex Luthor? Like, which Lex Luthor are we even then talking about? But it doesn't matter, I guess. If you're talking in film, then Thanos. Thanos is the best on-screen comic book character we've ever had. And if you just want to talk about the comic books, that's a separate discussion for another time and another type of a video. Let's Watch writes, you should have gone for the head. What the fuck? Holy shit. Oh my God. That was my appropriate reaction to that scene. I mean, yeah, when he says it, you should have gone for the head. First of all, we're not just talking Thanos. We're talking Thanos with a fully equipped, every single stone Infinity Gauntlet on his hand, trying to stop Stormbreaker, and he couldn't. How freaking powerful is Thor right now? I mean, that's you're right. When he said you should have gone for the head and he does the snap of his fingers, we're like, oh, no, no, no. Oh my God. Because when the axe hit him, I thought, they saved the day. Oh, wait, they didn't. You're right. That was kind of my reaction to Let's Watch. It really was. Hydra Zeta writes, there's an Infinity Gauntlet Easter egg in God of War. Really? That's interesting. I'm still dying to play that game. I cannot wait to play it. Everybody's telling me God of War is amazing. I can't wait to play it. So I'm going to look around online now for that Easter egg. Heston Roberts writes, new MCU films should be less event, more solo/duos. I hope so. I hope we get more Black Panther, Doctor Strange, Ant-Man, Captain Marvel, even though we haven't seen it yet. I hope we do get more of those moving forward. And then just really have the big event ones be the Avenger films. And the odd just duo pair up, that's fine too, like Thor and Hulk and Thor Ragnarok, that's fine too. But maybe no more Captain America Civil Wars. Maybe save those for every 3 years, every 3 or 4 years, you have a big team up, an Avengers movie. And maybe do that moving forward. But who knows what their plans are? I'm sure they've got their big, wonderful plans lined up. Boy Chow Sang writes, I also predict Infinity War will drop less than 40% in second week. I don't know about less than 40. Some people were saying, do you think it'll drop less than 65%? I'm like, yes, it will drop less than 65%. it's on the one hand, so many people saw it first weekend. There's not a ton of people left to still go see it. But it literally has no competition. There is no viable competition for it in the next 2 weekends. Not until Deadpool 2 opens. Not until Deadpool 2 opens does it have any competition. So I think it'll be around 50%. And I think that's a good place. I think it'll drop about 50%, and that's a perfect number. I can't see it being less than 40. So 46, 47, 51, in that neighborhood somewhere, less than 40, I don't know. That's a tall order for a movie that had so many people go out to see it in its first weekend. So like you get, let's say you take a movie like, say, The Quiet Place, right? Quiet Place has a $50 million opening weekend. That still means there's an ass ton of people who haven't seen it. When you get a huge opening like The Force Awakens or like Avengers Infinity War, I mean, that just means everybody went out there to see it first week. There's going to be repeat business, yes, all that kind of stuff. So I don't think under 40. I think between 43 and 52. I think that's going to probably be the drop-off range somewhere. And that's a great number. That would be wonderful if it did that. Miles Pardo writes, one question. Why is John Campea? You know what's funny? Here's the funny thing. Every time I've seen this movie, I've seen it 3 times so far. Each time I've watched the movie, when Drax does that, why is Gamora? I don't think that line is funny. But every time I've seen that line, and every time I've seen the movie and that line comes up, the whole audience I'm with roars at it. So I'm like, I guess I'm the only guy in the world who I didn't actually find that line all that funny. But oh my God, the audiences I've been with every single time lose their minds. So clearly it's a very effective line because the audience loses their mind. And every time I'm like, why are they losing their mind like that? But they do. They absolutely do. All right. Sam Fisher writes, regarding Thanos' theory that the location of the stones spell Thanos, what do you think the H is? I'm thinking her for Gamora, but I also heard heart. I don't know. I mean, if you wanted to force it to be that, I guess you could, but I've never put much stock or much thought into that theory, to be honest with you. Okay, next up, Joshua Stevens writes, nutsack of a chin. That was that. See, not so much why is Gamora, first of all, the grimace line and that nutsack of a chin. I loved those lines. Those lines were great. I thought that was fantastic. Mason Kackman writes, Infinity War doesn't seem like 2.5 hours. The pace of the film goes quick and give me that poster of Thor at Wakanda. Oh, no kidding, right? It felt like 2.5 hours to me, but that's not necessarily bad. The movie didn't feel like it dragged. It didn't feel like an hour and 58 minutes to me. It did feel like 2.5 hours to me, but that doesn't mean it dragged. Never felt like it dragged. If anything, it almost felt like it was like skipping around too fast and too much and a little too like, now we're over here, now we're on this plane, now we're over here, now we're over here. So, and that's what you're going to get when you get so many characters and so much going on in a movie. I'm not going to say though that it felt any shorter. It felt about 2.5 hours to me, but again, that's not a bad thing. It never felt like it was dragged on, right? It never felt at all like it dragged. Yang Knirch writes, Infinity War ending was great. The reaction on my parents' face was priceless. They don't follow Marvel movies, so they really think that Spider-Man is dead. I mean, and that's what they're counting on. They're counting on a lot of people who probably aren't familiar with the news and all that kind of stuff, that, Spider-Man's not really dead and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it was a great ending. And I put out a social media post the other day basically saying, I don't know what I like more, Infinity War or watching the reactions of audiences watching Infinity War, because the reactions in the theaters are just priceless, just absolute gold. All right, Gabriel Barreto writes, what happens to Wong in Avengers? Is he the last line of magical defense? Won't word be out that Doctor Strange is gone? But remember, Doctor Strange is not the Sorcerer Supreme yet. Word got out that there's no Sorcerer Supreme, but the sorcerers are still there protecting the, why am I forgetting the name of it? Protecting the Sanctum. They're still there protecting the Sanctum. Doctor Strange is not the universal known name yet. He's not Sorcerer Supreme yet. So at least I don't recall, I've seen the movie 3 times now, I don't recall them ever referring to him as the Sorcerer Supreme. And even when he's talking to Thanos, Doctor Strange refers to himself as, now you face the master of the mystic arts, like something along those lines, right? But I don't think he ever referred to himself as Sorcerer Supreme. So Doctor Strange is still relatively new on the block. I don't think that's the big thing. But Wong is there. We know what's happened. He opens the portal. He says to Banner, the sanctum needs protecting. So he goes back in. The stone is gone. The Eye of Agamotto is gone, and the sanctum is unprotected. So I need to go back and protect the sanctum. So that's what I think happened to him. Jeremiah J writes, but John, does Infinity War goes up on your list if we find out that Spider-Man 2 takes place hours after Spider-Man Homecoming? Then no deaths are fake and ruin Infinity War ending. Not really, because then they'd be doing another kind of lame thing. They'd be... Look, we already know Ant-Man is happening before the events of Infinity War. Captain Marvel is happening before the events of Infinity War. And now you want to do another movie that's happening before the events of Infinity War? That seems a little desperate. That seems a little bit desperate. Not to mention it comes out after Avengers 4. Right? So, hey, look, if we found out that, no, they actually killed Peter. He's dead. And he ain't coming back. That would be something, but I don't see that happening at all. I just don't see that happening at all. Okay, Just Plain Steve writes, do you think the melancholy tone of the ending will hurt Infinity War's long-term box office take? Maybe those repeat viewings will be less likely. A little bit, yeah. I think that's fair to say. I think that's part of the awesomeness of it, but it will also, like, for instance, Rey, I remember coming out of Infinity War, Rey was like that movie was awesome. I'm never going to watch it again, but it's awesome. I was like, but you just said it's awesome. Yeah, but I can't watch that again. I mean, like with everybody dying, it's so sad, all that kind of stuff. I love it. It was an awesome movie. Can't wait for the next one. I don't think I want to watch that again. I think there are going to be a number, not a lot of people, but I think there are going to be a number of people that are like that. And I think it will take a little bit of a toll. It's like Schindler's List, right? I love Schindler's List. I can't watch it again, though. I can't watch it again. Detroit. That was out last year. Love that movie. I can't watch it again, though. It's awesome, but I can't watch it again. I think there might be some people that because of the ending of the movie, which makes it so incredible, will also be something that's like, goes, okay, but I can't put myself through that again. I'm not going to watch that again. There are probably some people, like I said, I already know one that's like that. So there are probably others out there too. So that'll probably affect it a little bit. It might affect it a little bit. You never know. Let's see. Jeremiah J writes, Thor and Doctor Strange are my top 2 Avengers now. I think they really gave great moments to all Avengers. No, see, that was one of the impressive things, that despite the fact that there are too many characters in this movie, the Russo brothers and Kevin Feige found a way to give each individual character at least a moment. Like a moment to shine. All of them got a moment to shine. Captain America got a couple. Iron Man got a couple. You could assume that those 2 dudes are going to get a couple of moments to shine. But like everybody got at least one moment to shine. Drax had his moment. Falcon had his moment. Scarlett Johansson clearly had her moment. Black Widow had her moment. Vision had his. I mean, everybody had their moment. And that was one of the real impressive feats of the movie. Still all underused, but they all had their moments in a really nice balance. And that was no small feat. That was no small feat to pull that off. Okay, let's see here. Jeremiah J writes again, I think that Avengers 4 will be passing the baton to the new Avengers. Maybe they won't kill those iconic Avengers, but they will be sidelined after Avengers 4. I don't totally disagree with that. Some people are saying, oh, well, Robert Downey Jr. is done after Avengers 4, and so is Chris Evans because of this, and this. I don't know that I buy that, but it's possible. But I do believe that there is at least going to be some passing the baton, a little bit. But who are the new Avengers? I mean, I don't know that T'Challa's an Avenger because he's got responsibilities. He's king. He's got to worry about Wakanda. I don't know that Doctor Strange is an Avenger because he's got to guard the Sanctum. He's going to become Sorcerer Supreme and guard the Sanctum. Although if he's in New York, they can work together. I don't know. I think there will be some more passing of the baton more than killing off everybody and just replacing with new people. Because when you kill off the old guard, that means you don't have the option to bring them back later if you want to, unless you're going to do more fake killing. But I think this might be a little bit of a mixture of the two, Jeremiah. So I think you're partially right. Let's see. Jared McBride writes, "Hello, John. I hope you're having a great day." I am so far. Thank you so much, Jared. I went and saw Avengers Infinity War last night for the first time. It was awesome. Josh Brolin did a great job playing Thanos. Would you say an Oscar performance? Well, it's funny you should mention that, because on today's episode of the John Campea show that was on a little bit earlier today, that was the headline topic. Can Thanos get Josh Brolin an Academy Award? I don't think so. I don't. I think Josh Brolin did great, and he's going to be awesome in Deadpool 2, and he's going to be awesome in Sicario 2. Josh Brolin's wonderful, and he did a very, very good job with Thanos. But I think 70% of that character was more of the writing of the character than the performance itself. You know what I'm saying? So I don't believe we're going to see an Oscar for Josh Brolin. Not for this. Maybe for Deadpool 2, maybe for Sicario. But I don't think we're going to see one for Avengers Infinity War. I don't. Let's see. Ben Rayner writes, oops, and we have the big jump. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can find Ben. La 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 la. La 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 la. Going back and back and back and back and back and back some more. Holy shit, there's a lot of questions and everybody wants to talk about Infinity War, and here we are. Okay, so, hey guys, now looking at how many questions there still are in front of me, I need to ask you guys, if you have not sent in a question yet, don't bother. Don't bother. Unless you're okay with it being answered on the companion video that's going to come up tomorrow. I will take every question that I don't have time to get around to, and I will answer it on the companion video tomorrow. So just know that if you keep sending in questions out, it probably won't be answered right now live, and will probably be answered on the video that we're going to put up tomorrow. So just want to make sure you guys, and I'm probably not going to have time to get to all the ones that are still here, because I'm now an hour into this video, and we are we're only about a third of the way through all the questions that have come in. So just be aware of that. I'm just letting you know up front right now, okay? All right, let's keep this thing rolling then. Ben Rayner writes, could Spider-Man 2 be a huge misdirect and not really a movie? No director, no plot, no villain so far. Could the MCU just have thrown that out there just to trick us? I don't know about that, because we've known about that movie for years. Probably even before they had the final story of Avengers Infinity War put together. Like when the Sony Marvel deal was first announced. And that was all the way back when I was still with AMC. That was back when I was still with AMC. They made the deal and they had for this X number of films, and actually the deal runs out with Homecoming 2. So they already laid that all out. And that was, I believe, before they had the story points and before the Russo brothers were attached to direct an Infinity War and all that kind of stuff. So I mean, it's an interesting theory, but there's just too much stuff that seems to point against that. So I don't think that's the case. I don't think that's the case. Ben follows up with, if there is a Spidey 2, could they use Miles and not Peter? I doubt it. Nobody knows Miles Morales. The average person out there, when they think Spider-Man, they think Peter Parker. And I do not think they're interested in a non-Peter Parker Spider-Man. Whether it's a Clifford Benjamin, or whether it's a Michael Smith, or whether it's a Miles Morales, or whether it's an anybody, I just don't think the average movie-going audience is going to be all that interested. Not to mention, Sony's doing an animated one with Miles Morales. So it's not to say that it can't work, but they just finished introducing us to this Tom Holland Peter Parker character. You're going to knock him off after just a couple of movies? I don't think so. And replace him with another character? I don't think so. Not to mention, like I said, Sony's already doing stuff with Miles Morales. So I do not believe that Sony gave the rights or granted Marvel the right to use the Miles Morales character anyway. So, hey, anything's possible. We've learned that we have to say that every time, right? Anything is possible. But I really don't see, that would seem like a very, very stupid move on their part. It would seem to me. Stephen Meisel writes, Elrond becomes a ring wraith. Greetings, Thanos and Gamora, daughter of Thanos. I just loved his voice in that. It sounded so good. But you're right. He kind of came across as a ring wraith, right? I didn't think of it in those terms, but you're totally bang on. That's exactly how he came across. Cheap land on Krypton. I love that username. That's great. Cheap land on Krypton writes, over under 35%. We see Gamora back to life in Avengers 4. I want to say under. I want to say under so bad. But I have a feeling they're going to suck out and do it. So I'm going to take the over. I want it to be under, but I don't think they have the balls for it. So I think they're going to bring her back. I do. So I'll take the over on that. Hopefully I'm dead wrong. Jeremiah J. writes, I know Spider-Man isn't going to stay dead, but just thought if you're watching the movie and not thinking about the 6-picture deal, I don't know what TH has, Tom Holland has, then IW is great. Well, it's not the 6-picture deal that Tom Holland has that's the problem. You can have a 25 film deal. That doesn't mean the studio has to use you 25 times. That just means you have to come back and play the character if they tell you to. But they don't have to use you for it. The problem isn't the Tom Holland deal. The problem is the Sony Marvel deal. So see, here's the interesting thing. Tom Holland is under contract with Sony for 6 films as Spider-Man. That means after Homecoming 2, Sony can pull out of the deal with Marvel and just make their own Spider-Man movies outside of the MCU, and Tom Holland is still under contract to do a couple more. I mean, that's the interesting thing about that. Or they don't have to use Tom Holland. So like, that's one of the things I often talk, it comes up a lot on my shows, is that people say, oh, this actor has this many films of a deal. That means they're going to use him. No, it doesn't. It only means he has to play the role if the studio wants him to play the role. But it doesn't mean, because you remember, oh, damn it. Why am I keep forgetting the name of this actor? And I love this actor. Terrence Howard. Remember, Terrence Howard had a 3-film deal. He had a 3-film deal to play Rhodey, War Machine. They only used him for 1, then they got rid of him, got somebody else. But he had a contract. The contract only says that you have to play the role if the studio wants you to play the role. It does not obligate the studio to use you. They can change characters if they want. And so the Tom Holland 6-figure deal doesn't really mean much, or the 6-picture deal doesn't mean much. What does mean a lot is the number of Sony films that they have to go into it. But you're right. I mean, the impact on people who maybe have no idea about the upcoming Spider-Man 2 movie, I'm sure it affected them more deeply. Absolutely. Unfortunately, I'm not one of those people. I am, as Red Skull would say, cursed with knowledge. I'm cursed with the knowledge of knowing that another Spider-Man movie is coming, so I know Peter's not really dead. Or maybe he's dead for the moment, but he's coming back. So he's not really dead. So I wish I could have the gift of ignorance and not know what I know, but you and I do know what we know, so it did affect my enjoyment of the scene just a little bit. Okay, let's move on here. Tony Bush writes, over under 70%, Thanos killed Hawkeye's family in the snap. Oh. You know what? 70 is a big number. So I'll take the under on 70. Because that number's so big, that's a big number. To go over 70 is almost saying it's a certainty that he did. I'm not willing to say it's a certainty. But, I mean, it is likely. If you had set the number at 50%, I'd take the over on it. But at 70, that's a little bit too high of a number for me to feel comfortable with. So I'm going to take the under on 70. Even though I think it's likely, 70 is just too high. I'm not comfortable saying 71%. Can't do it. Jedi Lori writes, better villain, Thanos or the Emperor? The Emperor. Yeah, the Emperor to me. Thanos is great, but the Emperor. KW Garrett 83 writes, so Thor survived the vacuum of space. Well, he is a god. Thor survived the vacuum of space and being blasted with nuclear radiation from a dying star. So he's basically Superman. He's one tough guy to kill. Oh, he's a god. He is the god of thunder. Which is kind of one of the notes about why, the one thing that disappointed me a little bit. I don't mind that Thanos killed Loki. Like, we all assumed he was going to kill Loki in the first 10 minutes of the movie, right? Like, we called that. We all knew that. I'm a little bit disappointed with how he killed Loki. It's like, really? Loki is the god of mischief. And he gets killed just by breaking his neck? I just would have thought it would have taken one of the stones to kill him, like the Power Stone or something to... I don't know. I wanted to see more than just getting his neck broke, because he's Loki, god of mischief. So I don't know. I was a little bit disappointed with that, but still so moved by the scene itself that it compensated for that, so it was fine. Let's see. Drew H. writes, saw a theory for Avengers 4 that Tony will get control of the gauntlet and be forced to sacrifice one he loves, Pepper, in order to fix everything. I don't buy that. I don't buy that. I think it has more to do with the quantum realm. Again, we're just theorizing. I'm just theorizing because that theory could be totally true. I'm saying that's not the one I subscribe to, but it could totally be. There are crazier theories out there. I think it will have more to do with Hank Pym. And Hank Pym being the world's foremost expert on the quantum realm. And that becoming a device for time travel and stuff like that. So I don't know about Tony getting control of the gauntlet, because the gauntlet looks like it was pretty messed up. But who knows? Anything's possible. We'll have to see. ZOMG Ruler writes, thoughts on disintegrating memes created? Haven't seen any disintegrating memes, so I can't offer a theory. Sebastian Lerda writes, Venom universe and continuity in trouble due to Infinity War events. Aren't they in the same universe or timeline? Half of mankind disappeared. Nope. Apparently they're not in the same universe. At least I don't think so. And then again, it also all depends on when are they going to say this happens. Maybe they say if it is in the same universe, which neither Kevin Feige nor Sony have ever been very clear on. The answer has always been no, yes, no. Yes, no, yes, no, yes. Maybe, no, yes, no, yes, maybe. That's always been kind of the way they've handled it. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. We'll find out for sure. Because when Venom starts, and if it doesn't say it happens before the events of Infinity War, and just New York is fine the way it is, or San Francisco, I think, is where it takes place, then we know for certain that they're in two separate universes or realities. So I guess we're going to find out. It's a good question. But then again, if Venom starts, and there are newspapers saying, it's been 4 months since half the world disappeared or half the world died, well, then we know they're in the same universe. But they're not tipping their hand either way right now. I don't think they're going to be in the same universe, but I kind of hope they are. We'll have to find out. Scarlet Witch's husband writes, you think there is a chance that Spider-Man stays dead and continues with Miles Morales? Well, that question already came up. I don't think so. It would be a ludicrously bad decision. It would be a ludicrously bad decision. You just got Peter Parker, who is still in high school, and you just are getting the audience connected to this dude. And for people, the average film fan who are not comic book people, Peter Parker is Spider-Man. Doesn't matter what the comics have done in the past number of years. To everybody else in the world, Spider-Man is Peter Parker, and Peter Parker is Spider-Man. And most of them have never even heard of Miles Morales. Sony's rolling the dice a little bit on doing a Miles Morales animated film, which is really cool. But I think it would be, oh my God, there would be people getting fired over at Disney and Marvel if they did that. So I don't think that's what they're going to do. Anything is possible. Got to say that every single time. But it's true. Anything is possible. And maybe they do have a curveball like that up their sleeve. I just don't think so at this point. But who knows? Gabriel Gutierrez writes, did you notice Black Panther said Thanos would get only dust and blood in Wakanda? That's exactly what he got. True. I think it was more referring to the field of battle. But it's true. Got dust and blood. It's true. It's a good observation, Gabriel. Meet Kumar writes, how does Thor travel without Heimdall? Remember, the dwarf said, when he's talking about Stormbreaker, theoretically, Stormbreaker can summon the Bifrost. That's what Heimdall did. Heimdall was responsible for summoning the Bifrost. Apparently now Thor can summon the Bifrost himself with Stormbreaker. So remember, that was the key line there. It goes, theoretically, it can summon the Bifrost. Well, we saw him do it. He summoned the Bifrost, came to Earth. So that's how he gets around without Heimdall. Scarlet Witch's husband writes, also, you think there's a chance Hawkeye appears in Ant-Man and the Wasp? You know what, man? I haven't thought about that. I had not considered that. I'll say hell yeah. Yeah, I think there's a chance for that. Why not? I don't know why I haven't, up until this point, even considered the possibility that maybe, even in a cameo role, Hawkeye pops up. I mean, it won't be a major role. I mean, I think we would have heard more about it by now, but why not? Sure. I'll say, at least in a cameo role. I think maybe even him and Hawkeye are just talking on a Facebook chat or something. I don't know. But yeah, I hadn't thought about that. I like that idea. Sure. Yeah, I think there's a chance for that. Hugo TD Tooch, whatever. Everyone is saying Thanos said should have gone for the head. Seen it twice, both times I heard hand, which made sense to me. Losing my mind. No, I like what, was it Jonathan who said it when I had fact checker Jonathan on the video with me earlier this morning? They said, should have gone for the thumb. Just take the one stone out. Just should have gone for the thumb. No, I am fairly certain. I've seen the film 3 times now. I am fairly certain, although I've been wrong about these things before, almost positive he says should have gone for the head. Almost positive he said head. Because that would have ended it right there. If you got him in the head, would have ended it. So no, I didn't hear hand. I don't even think it got close to sounding like hand. So, but hey, you know what? Just gives me another excuse why I got to go watch it again, just so I can pay closer attention to that scene. Because who knows, maybe, but I'm pretty sure he said head. I could be wrong about that though. Let's see. Aaron Strelinsky writes, does Thor being able to summon the Bifrost on command essentially make Stormbreaker a space stone? Also, does Thor get the power of Heimdall? I don't think so. I don't think he gets the power of Heimdall. Because I think it's like your car has a steering wheel. So does that Porsche 911. That does not make your car a Porsche 911. They're different things. They just happen to share one of the things they could do. The hammer could call... Heimdall was more powerful than just being able to summon a Bifrost. Remember, Loki once very cryptically talked about how powerful Heimdall is. But he was sworn to serve Asgard, in particular his father, the king, Loki's father, Odin. So no, I don't think he gets the powers of Heimdall. I don't. But yeah, and it's also not essentially a space stone, because that's the difference between saying, like, Star Trek can beam me from here to there in an instant. The Bifrost is just a really fast car that can take Thor somewhere very quickly across vast distances in the universe, but it's still transporting him, as opposed to the space stone, which is just a vortex in space, and boom, there, I'm across the galaxy. So I'd say it's a minor difference, but a difference nonetheless. At least that's the way I look at it. Anyway, good question though. Let's see. Derek Woodrin writes, where did the Black Order get their weapons? Oh, I'm not really sure. To be honest with you, I'm not sure. First of all, Maw. How cool was Maw? I mean, seriously. He is, like, somebody jokingly said it the other day, but I think they were right. He may have instantly become one of the top 5 MCU villains ever. And he's a side villain in this movie. But the way he spoke, the way he articulated himself, and his power, and always had like the one hand behind. Oh my God, I love that character. Loved him. I'm not going to lie to you. I was a little upset when he died. I was a little bit upset when he died because I thought he was a great character, but I don't know where they got their weapons from, to be honest. Scarlet Witch's husband writes, Groot was able to lift Stormbreaker when he made the handle. Was he worthy then? Same question was asked a little bit earlier in the video. No, because when he first wrapped his arm around it, it wasn't Stormbreaker yet. It was pieces of Stormbreaker, but it wasn't until Groot cut off his arm and his arm became the handle, now Stormbreaker was complete. Now it was Stormbreaker. And probably after that, Groot probably wouldn't be able to lift it. But before that happens, Groot was just grabbing and lifting pieces of Stormbreaker. It wasn't Stormbreaker yet. That's why the dwarf was freaking out. Where's the handle? I have to find the handle, because without the handle, it's not Stormbreaker. It's the pieces that make up Stormbreaker, but it's not Stormbreaker yet. And I believe Stormbreaker didn't come to life until after Groot cut off his arm. When Groot cut off his own arm, then Stormbreaker was complete. So that's kind of how I see that. Sebastian Lerter writes, the snap, what a cool way to call what happened. It's true. And you know what? It's funny. Look, the neat thing is, this is what I love about these movies. Going into it, I have a bunch of predictions of things that I think will happen. A lot of them happened. Some of them didn't. That's great. I had heard a lot of theories that I say that won't happen, and most of them didn't happen, but some of them did. Like, for instance, I didn't think Peter Dinklage was actually going to be the dwarf. I thought Peter Dinklage was just going to be one of the voices of one of the Black Order. And despite everything that was in the comics and everything like that, I didn't think the snap would be in the movie. I didn't. I'll just be honest with you. I didn't think it would be there. I thought they would circumvent that and not do it, but they did it. And what are a couple of the theories that I said, nah, that won't happen, that they did? Like, most of them that I said, nah, that won't happen, didn't. But there were a few that did, like the Peter Dinklage is the dwarf, like the snap. What are some other ones? I just remember watching the movie the first time going, oh, there's one that I didn't think would happen, and it did. And I love that. I mean, I love it when a movie can catch you by surprise. And some of the things that I certainly thought would happen, a lot of them did, some of them didn't. Some of the things I didn't think would happen, some of them didn't, some of them did, which, I mean, it's just great. And it just makes it fun to guess about that stuff. But yeah, the snap is a cool way to call what happened. Or the dusting. The snap or the dusting, either one is good with me. All right. Charlie15Z writes, theoretically, could Thanos himself have disappeared after snapping his fingers, since it was supposed to be completely random? Ooh, that's a good question. If he was really trying to be impartial, with no bias, rich and poor alike, just it's random. But still remember, it's not some spell he cast. He did it. And I guess he precluded himself from being possible. It would have been interesting if he did that, and then he started to turn to dust and said, I guess I was one. And he faded. That would have been pretty damn cool too. Although I do like the ending of him retiring, if you will, sitting in that place. Like he said to Doctor Strange, what'll you do after you wipe out half the universe? What then? Well, then I'll just sit on a hill and watch the sunrise on a grateful universe. He really was crazy. But anyway, I like that ending too, but how cool would the ending have been if he snapped his fingers and then like the last guy to start to dust was Thanos himself and said, well, I said it would be random and impartial. And then he just faded away. That would have been a pretty cool ending too. But I have a feeling he excluded himself from that, probably, just to make sure it gets seen through. Louise Roque writes, Russo's confirmed Stark technology from Civil War in Avengers 4. The one Stark can see his memories and parents. Is that the link with leaked photos? I don't know. And to be honest with you, I never heard the Russos say that myself personally. I'm not saying they didn't. Believe me, I'm not saying that they didn't say that. I'm saying I am not familiar with them saying that. I would have to see the quote of them saying that to know for sure what you're talking about. Could be. And see, that's the thing. These leaked photos come out for Avengers 4, right? And everybody's assuming, including me a little bit, for sure, everybody's assuming, oh, time travel. But we have learned the lesson the hard way many times. When we see these leaked, out of context set photos that get leaked out, they never end up being what they appeared to be, right? Like, remember when we saw the leaks, the without context leaked set photos of Scoot McNairy on the set of Batman vs. Superman, and he had the green leggings on? Everybody jumped to the conclusion, he's Flash. Because he's got green on his legs. He's Flash. Some other people, he's Green Lantern. And everybody jumped to all these conclusions based without any, turns out none of it was right. Then those early pictures that came out of Brie Larson in the Captain Marvel thing. And everybody says, oh, that's a scene of this. And the suit is green. That means this isn't this. Turns out they hadn't even started shooting the movie yet. They didn't start shooting the movie until months after that. So it turns out it was just some random costume test. All that is to say that we have precedent that tells us don't put too much energy into developing theories around out of context leaked set photos, because most of the time it never ends up being what it looks like. And that's the danger of without context leaked set photos. So I'm not quite sure what to make of those photos we've seen. I'm really not. It certainly looks one way, but that often doesn't work out. So we're just gonna have to wait and see. It's a great question though. It's a great theory. And certainly it's possible. Straight Out of Asgard writes, Thanos' face at the end of the movie said a lot. Like, finally, I saved everyone. Now I can rest. Yeah, it was a very self-satisfied look on his face, wasn't it? Like, he had his moment talking to Gamora, where he talks to Gamora in his vision. And first of all, that was a great moment, wasn't it? When he sees the little Gamora and she says, what did it cost? And he's like, almost exasperated, says, everything. That was a powerful moment. I love that moment. It was a powerful, powerful moment. But yeah, there was a little bit of smug self-satisfaction. In a sense, a very self-satisfied look. I mean, first of all, also a little bit of pain because he's reflecting on everything it cost, everything I've been through, everything, people that died that I cared about too, whether it's his own children and whether it was Gamora or whatever, but I did it. And he gets a little grin at the end. It's quite a telling shot. It's quite a telling shot. Okay, Andrew Lee writes, Gamora doesn't realize Thanos loves her, though poignantly, he truly does. Do you think she would have still turned against him if she knew all along? It's a good question. I don't think so, because at the end of the day, he was still crazy. Like the concept of, I'm going to murder half the universe. Doesn't matter that your motivations are, you think you're saving the universe by doing it, but you've got to let planets decide that for themselves. You've got to give planets a chance to save themselves. You've got to do this, blah, blah, blah. It's not, you don't have the right to play God and commit huge genocide and wipe out half the population of the universe. You can't. There still would have been that because she loved him too. Remember, when she thought she killed him on Nowhere, she broke down because in that moment they revealed to us she loved him too. She hated him, but she loved him. And she killed him, and it broke her that she killed him. And yet, even though she loved him, she knew he was crazy. And she knew what he was trying to do can never be allowed to happen. Do I think if she knew that he loved her, that she would have gone along with his plan to kill half the universe? No, I don't think so. She seemed to have too much of a moral compass. So even if she knew that he loved her, like beyond question, if she knew that he loved her, I still don't think it would have changed anything for her because she loved him already. But she knew what he was doing was wrong and had to be stopped. So it's a great question, but I don't think it would have changed anything, to be honest with you. Sebastian Lerda writes, if Thanos killed half of Asgard in the first scene, after the snap, half of the half still died. Do we get a quarter of Asgard? See, somebody else brought that up the other day. That would suck to be Asgard. Or does he, like, is he in control? Does he know in his head, okay, this world, I already killed half of them on that world. This world, I killed half of them already. So the rest of the worlds that I never got around to, kill half of those populations. So I'm going to guess, out of his twisted sense of fairness, because he believes himself fair. Thanos believes himself to be noble and fair. So out of his own twisted sense of fairness, I don't think he killed half of the half of Asgard that was still alive. I think in his own twisted sense of fairness, he would have left the rest of the Asgardians alive. I can't back that up with anything. That's just what I think. All right, guys, this is going to be the last question I take. No, hold on a second. Not the last question I take in general. I'm going to take this one more question, and then I'm going to take a 1-minute break because my throat is starting to go like really angry at me. I've been going at this for almost an hour and a half, and as you can see, my cup is empty, and I have nobody else here to run and grab me a drink. So I'm going to answer this one question, then we're going to take a 1-minute intermission. So if you need to run, use the bathroom, any kind of stuff like that, you go ahead and do it. So one more question, then we'll take a 1-minute break, and then we'll continue on. Okay, guys? All right. So this last question, before we take our 1-minute break, comes to us from Sebastian Lerda, who writes, wasn't prepared for Thanos beating Hulk in a fist fight. Well, Thanos, remember, he had the Power Stone. Thanos had the Power Stone. That stone that if it touches the ground, remember in Guardians of the Galaxy, would destroy a planet. And that's the power that Thanos was wielding. What I'd be more interested in is, could Thanos stand toe-to-toe with Hulk had he not been wielding the Power Stone? That's another issue. That's another question. But with Thanos being Thanos, and now adding to that, him having an Infinity Gauntlet with the Power Infinity Stone in his gauntlet, was there really any chance Hulk could win that fight? I don't think so. I don't think that Hulk had a chance in that fight at that point. Okay, so guys, if you will permit me the mercy, I want to. You guys keep asking questions, so I want to stay here with you guys and keep this thing going. Doesn't matter how sore my throat is. If you will allow me, though, like say 90 seconds to take a little break here for 1 second, just go and refill my cup so I can come back here and we'll keep this thing going. So give me 90 seconds. If anybody new joins in, just tell them the chat board. We're just on a short 1 to 2 minute break. John will be right back and we'll keep the questions going. So give me 1 minute and I will be right back. And we are back. I told you it wouldn't take long. I just needed to run downstairs, stop talking for a second, and just refill my cup. So with that now out of the way, let's jump back into things here. We're just going to keep going until I can't go anymore. How's that? All right. Kevin Jones writes, "Hey, John, love the show." Thank you so much, Kevin. My question, is it possible that the Wakanda scene from the trailer is a possible scene from Avengers 4? No. No. That's not a scene. First of all, half the people there in that scene were dead, right? So, no, that was just purely put together for the trailer, meant to be a little bit of a misdirect by putting Hulk in the scene when clearly he wasn't in the movie. So no, that's not from Avengers 4. Let's see. Sam Fisher writes, "We also don't know if there's a worthiness to Stormbreaker." I have a feeling there is, because remember, when Thor was with the Guardians of the Galaxy, and they brought up the idea of, they say, oh, shouldn't we all get one of those types of weapons? Like, what kind of weapon? The Thanos killing kind. Shouldn't we all get those weapons? And he said, you're not worthy. You wouldn't, first of all, your minds would melt and your blah, 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 and all this would kind of happen. So I think it was implied in that any weapon that gets made there for, the kings of Asgard, if you will, was going to have that thing. So I think it was implied that there is a worthiness thing to Stormbreaker. I think it's implied. You never know though, maybe not, but I think it was implied. Michael Jones writes, "I love Quill saying to Thanos, 'Let her go, Grimace.'" I love that line so much. A McDonald's toy in the 1970s and 80s, a purple blob that liked to steal French fries. I love that. Yeah, oh my God. It kills me that some people may not have gotten that reference. Because he made it into the 90s, I think, a little bit too, Grimace did. But Grimace, Mayor McCheese, the Hamburglar, all those guys that are no longer around anymore, it breaks my heart to think that there are people out there, Michael, that did not get that reference. I love the reference. But you know what reference I didn't get? Because I'm not an avid SpongeBob SquarePants dude. When Tony called McSquiddle or whatever the character's name, I didn't get that reference. I'm like turning people, why is everybody laughing? Oh, it's a SpongeBob character. Oh, okay, I didn't realize that. So that went over my head. But yes, it breaks my heart that thinking that there are some people out there who did not get the Grimace reference. That kills me. All right, KW Garrett writes, "Over under 50% Shuri gets Vision back in Avengers 4. Ugh, I hope not. I don't think so. I'll take the under 50%. I wouldn't say 0 and I wouldn't say 5. Like if you set the line at say 5%, I'd probably take the over on that. But at 50%, I feel pretty comfortable taking the under. Not impossible, but I'll take the under. Sebastian Lerter writes, Apocalypse is in the last X-Men. Should have been menacing both physically and mentally like Thanos was. Thoughts? I don't really want to sit here and talk about another movie. We're here to talk about Avengers Infinity War. So it's a good question, but we're here to use our time to talk about Avengers Infinity War. So I'm going to skip over that one for now. But by all means, use that question another time. The Iceman 101418 writes, not sure if you talked about the score yet, but I think it was one of the best parts of the movie. With this and Ready Player One, Sylvester's on fire. Thoughts? I'll be honest with you, I didn't notice much of the score. Except there were a couple of key moments, like Thor showing up on Earth and the main theme playing, bah, 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 like that kind of very regal. There were moments that I noticed the score. Certainly there were moments. But I didn't really notice it throughout the film, so I can't comment on it. I told somebody else that the next time I go see it, which might even be tonight, like I'll wait till Anne gets home and see what she wants to do tonight, but might even be tonight that we go watch it again. I'll pay a little bit closer attention to the scoring for sure. But a lot of people seem to really be enjoying the score. So obviously it did something right, but I just got to admit, I didn't really pay much attention to it during the movie. Let's see. Nathan Freeman writes, John, have you taken credit for calling Infinity War box office within 1 million? Because you should get it. Yeah, but to be fair, for the longest time, I said it wouldn't break the record, right? And it wasn't until, I think it was 3 days before the movie came out, when one of the viewers asked me, straight up said, "Okay, last chance, because the movie's opening in a couple of days. Last chance. What's your final prediction?" And it wasn't until then that I finally said, okay, I think it's going to break the record. It'll probably come in around, what did I say, 256 or 258, something like that. Anyway, so yeah, I got it pretty close, but I can't take that much credit because for most of the year, I was saying it wouldn't even break the record. So you got to balance that out. So no, I'm not going to take too much credit for that because for most of the year, I said it wouldn't even break the record. So there's that. But thank you for trying to give me props anyway. I appreciate that. Taki75 writes, what if dust people aren't dead but trapped inside the Soul Stone and Avengers don't need to turn back time, just take the gauntlet and free them? Well, again, to me, that would seem like a really bullshit cop-out because that was never suggested in the movie at all. And somebody else brought up this question a little bit earlier. But to me, like that was never even remotely suggested in the movie. It was never suggested that, the Soul Stone, no, Thanos will just gather up the souls of everybody and just bring them into the stone. No, their bodies were destroyed. He had spent decades going around killing people, not imprisoning people somewhere, killing populations. So they could do that, but again, that would be a bullshit cop-out. If that's what they do, it's a bullshit cop-out. So I hope it's possible. I just really hope for their sake that's not what they're doing. Let's see here. Because at that point, why wouldn't Thanos just say, hey, look, I'm not going to kill everybody, but, something's got to be done, so I'm going to capture their spirits and their souls. I'm going to capture them in Soul Stone. They'll live forever in the Soul Stone. He doesn't say that. He's wiping people out. He's killing people. So if they go that route, I'm going to be disappointed. I really will. Let's see. Jacob Zwerner. I hope I'm saying that right, Jacob. Sorry if I'm not. Seen it 3 times. Me too. I'm just confused on how the Black Order knew how to locate the stones. First in New York. Next, they find Vision. I think it's just the stones themselves. I think there was a way they could track the stones. Because remember, Scarlet Witch, when they were in the Avengers headquarters, said, so they can track us. Right? Remember she said that? So I just assumed watching the movie, they were drawn to the power of the stones, or they had something that could point them to the power of the stones themselves. So that was just what I assumed as a movie audience member, was that. So maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong, but my assumption watching the movie was they knew how to follow the power of the stones. They knew how to sense the power of the stones. They had some device that pointed them towards the power of the stones because the stones are very, very powerful things. So I just assumed that as an audience member, so I didn't really think much about it. But maybe I'm wrong. I could be dead wrong about that. But that was just my thinking process, Jacob. Murray for Us writes, Drax wanted to kill Thanos, but was held back by Star-Lord. But later on, Star-Lord does the same thing later on when he himself couldn't hold himself back punching Thanos. Yeah, but there's a big difference. The big difference is he just found out about it. He just found out about it. And it's always easier to tell somebody else to calm down than for you to calm down. And, we kind of addressed this a little bit earlier. That, I think anybody else would have done the same thing in maybe not everybody else, but like, for instance, Iron Man would have done the same thing. No, he wouldn't have. He already did. In in Civil War, he was presented with the clear logical facts. Hey, it wasn't really Bucky that killed your parents. He was brainwashed, manipulated, used, and controlled by these other villains. It wasn't him. That didn't matter to Tony. That didn't matter because in that moment, all he knows, he's got this blinding rage. This is the dude who killed my parents. That's all he saw. So he would have done the exact same thing as Star-Lord did. He would have done the exact same thing Star-Lord did. And again, it doesn't really matter because if they did take the glove off of Thanos, that is still one of the 14 million possibilities that Doctor Strange saw that would have ended in all of them losing. Doctor Strange knew there was only one outcome to them possibly winning long term. And a part of that outcome apparently was Peter Quill losing his temper and punching Thanos in the face and Thanos keeping the glove. And Doctor Strange dying and everybody else dying and all that kind of stuff. That was part of the plan, so it didn't really matter. So, yeah, again, with Drax, it's something that happened years earlier. With Star-Lord, it was something that he just found out. It's a little bit harder to control at that point. So I cut him some slack for that. Ben Rayner writes, over under 25%. Avengers 4 is Avengers Endgame. Under. It's possible. I wouldn't say 0. I wouldn't say 1%. I wouldn't say 2%. It's possible, but I wouldn't go as high as 25%. But it's a good title. It's a good title. Luna Comics writes, I hope Black Panther will one day say, do you know the way? Oh, I wish. I feel like you're referencing something really cool and I don't know what it is. I'm forgetting what it is. But I feel like you're quoting something cool and I can't wrap my head around it. Sorry about that. MCV Multi-Comic Verse writes, Spidey sense on overdrive knowing he's next to die. You know what? I wondered about that. Because everybody else, just this dusting started and within a second or two they were dusted. With Peter, he's like, oh, wait, I don't feel so good. I wondered if the first few seconds of that was just the spider sense, like going like nuts, and him realizing it means he was about to die. Because like with everybody else, like Scarlet Witch just looked up, and within the time that we saw the first few bits of dust coming off her to when she finally just completely evaporates, it was only a matter of a couple of seconds. With Peter, it's more drawn out. So I had that exact same thought. I wonder if the first few seconds of it was him just his spider sense going crazy. But anyway, we're both probably wrong, but maybe we're right. Who knows? Sebastian Lerner writes, what if Thanos dies due to Stormbreaker's wound? He accomplished his goal anyway. True, but he seemed like it was patched up when we went to him on his oasis now sitting down watching the sunrise or sunset, whichever one it was. It seemed like the wound had been healed, and he probably could have harnessed the power, the glove, to fix his wound. Probably. So I'm guessing he's okay. Could be wrong, but I'm guessing he's okay. Nathan C. writes, I really think the Avengers 4 scenes that look like the New York battle are Tony using Barf from Civil War to look at what made them successful then. Maybe. I mean, that was kind of brought up a little bit earlier, right? If you're referring to the technology he used in Civil War. That's certainly a possibility. It would explain a lot. Wouldn't explain why Ant-Man's in that scene. That's something we have to consider. It wouldn't explain Ant-Man being in the scene, but it is certainly a possibility. Guru Lagama writes, did you catch Widow and Cap being an item? No. I didn't. Maybe, okay, now when I watch it for a fourth time, I'm going to, thank you very much, because now I'm just going to be watching for that every second. Wait a minute, how does he say it? Oh, do they look at each other a certain way? But no, I didn't catch that. Maybe I missed it. Maybe everybody's aware of that and it just went over my head, but I didn't. But God, I love that moment when, hey, Bruce, hi, Nat, and just that the tension there. Oh, I want to say, ever since I rewatched Ultron, and I saw that, you know what, it might be one of my favorite moments in all of the MCU. There's that moment in Ultron when they're at the party and Bruce and her are standing at the bar. She guys like all these guys. I'm paraphrasing. I'm sure I'm not getting all the wording right, but the essential thing she said was this. All these guys who are just looking to jump into the fight. And then here comes this guy and will do anything to stay out of the fight because he knows he'll win. Oh, what a line. What a line. Like, if I was Bruce, I would have fallen in love with her right there, just for saying that. It was one of the most romantic, emotionally romantic, like true, authentic, emotional connection and romantic overtures that there has ever been in a comic book movie. More than the upside down Spider-Man kiss. When she says to him, you know, all the guys are always looking to rush in the fight, and then there comes this guy who does anything he can to stay out of the fight because he knows he'll win. Oh, such a great line. And that was the moment that I went, okay. Because I heard going into Ultron that they were going to start suggesting Bruce and Black Widow as a romance. And I'm like, oh, okay, I don't see that. I don't see that. And then the moment she said that line, I'm like, fuck it. I'm on board. I am totally on board. What's the term they're saying? Shipping. I am shipping Bruce and Nat. I'm totally on board with that after she said that line. And I want to see more of that. But again, so many characters in this movie, so much going on. They couldn't really go into anything at all. So we had to just be satisfied with them having that one moment and then never addressing it again in the rest of the movie, which is too bad. But I want to see that coupled together. Okay, Darren Chase writes, is there a connection between Star Wars or Scarlet Witch, between Scarlet Witch's hex power and Reality Stone, both red and reality warping? I don't think so, at least not in the movie universe. Because in the movie universe, I believe she gets her powers from the Space Stone. Because it was with Loki's scepter that they were experimenting on the twins to try to unlock their abilities, if I'm remembering it correctly. So if her powers, and I think that's why Vision said to her, it takes a power source that is frequencied much like a power of its own, and I believe that she got her power from the Space Stone, the Tesseract. So I would think if she has a connection to any of the stones, it would be that one, but maybe I'm not remembering it correctly. Maybe my head's way off on that. I'm not sure, but that's just kind of my first impression, my first thought on that. Let's see. Next one. Eric Blank writes, even though I tried telling my friends otherwise, they were convinced that Spider-Man and Black Panther are dead. They didn't even know about Avengers 4 next year. It worked for the story to create hopelessness. Well, I mean, again, that's the gift of ignorance. And, you know, I mentioned this earlier in the broadcast, but in case you didn't hear it, you know, I feel like watching the movie, like for those of you who are watching the show, you're all in the know. You know what's happening. But I almost feel like Red Skull when he says, cursed with knowledge, you know? And Thanos says it as well. Cursed with knowledge. I wish I didn't know. You know, I wish I could go in and watch Infinity War not knowing that Black Panther was just a massive box office success and you know they're going to make another one. I wish I could go in not knowing that James Gunn already officially told everybody that they're making a Guardians of the Galaxy 3. I wish I could go in not knowing that they already have Homecoming 2 as the first MCU movie after Avengers 4. I wish I could have been your friends, Eric. And I bet you wish so too, that we could have gone in not knowing any of that, because then the emotional impact of those scenes probably would have been 5 times bigger. Instead, we are cursed with knowledge. We know that all that's coming, so it probably undermined the experience for us a little bit. Still beautifully pulled off, but yeah, I envy your friends. I envy your friends that they didn't know any of that, because I would have loved to know what my experience would have been like had I not known those things. So they were lucky in many ways. Let's see. Marv Diesel writes, I think the reason we didn't see what happened to Shuri is because she successfully separated some of Vision's essence from the Infinity Stone, making way for Vision to return. I don't think so. He was dead as dead as dead. When Thanos pulled that thing out, there was no like remote essence of life in him. He was dead. I mean, even the color in his clothes turned gray and his eyes pure white, and he was just a sack of rocks at that point. So I think just the reason we don't see what happened to Shuri is because we did see what happened to Shuri. The Black Order dude came in, knocked her over the rail. He didn't finish her off because he was focused on Vision, and then Vision came in, the fight happened. That's so we know what happened to Shuri. She got knocked down, and then that was it for her. Some people ask me, do you think she got dusted too? Well, they seem to make a point of showing everybody who got dusted. I don't know why they would say Shuri got dusted and not show her die. So I'm going to assume she survived. But yeah, I will disagree with you. I do think they showed us what happened to her. She got knocked down, and that her part in the story ends at that point. The only reason she didn't get finished off is because the dude was focused on Vision, and Vision and him engaged, and that probably saved her life. So I think we did see what happened to her. All right. I could be wrong about that, though. I've been wrong about other things. Yuchiya Obido writes, if Hela conquered Asgard in Ragnarok, would she give Thanos the Tesseract or fight? I'd love to see Hela versus Thanos, but that's just wishful thinking. Oh my God, that would have been amazing. Because yes, I think Hela could have given Thanos at least a run for his money. I mean, because even after Thor taps into his God of Thunder powers, he was no match for Hela. I mean, Hela was almost able to take out, couldn't take out Suitor, right? So I would have loved to see, but no, I don't think Hela would have worked with him. Hela would have wanted to conquer him. Hela would have wanted to conquer the universe, and she wouldn't have let somebody come along and kill off half the universe, even though she was the goddess of death, and Thanos is supposed to be in love with death. That ain't the movies, that's the comic books. But it would have been a hell of a fight to see Hela, fully powered Hela, fighting Thanos. That would have been a hell of a fight. Let's see. Eric Blank writes, Marvel doesn't make movies for people like us who pay attention to the news and movie announcements. Killing Spider-Man and Black Panther works great. Well, you can't say that definitively. I think Marvel has found, at least I find this, maybe you don't, who knows, but what I find is that Marvel has found a very nice, balanced way to make it for both audiences. I think he makes it for those who follow everything. That's why you get a lot of winks and a lot of nods and a lot of this and a lot of that in their movies, that they know only the people who really stay in the know would recognize and know about. At the same time, in the grand picture of things, they understand that the majority of the movie-going audience is not us. We are not the majority of the movie-going audience. We are the minority. So I feel like they do a little bit for both. I don't think it's one or the other. I think they very masterfully figured a way to kind of appeal to both in many ways. So I kind of agree in one way with you, but not entirely. You see what I'm saying? Maybe you're right, maybe I'm wrong, who knows? But I've always kind of got that sense from them, that they figured out how to do both to a degree and how to balance that out. That's just kind of how I feel about it. All right, Anthony J. Lee writes, what did he write? There it is. Anthony J. Lee writes, thoughts on Hulk being mad at the Avengers 4 using him like a tool to fight bad guys, alluded to in Ragnarok, and that being why he doesn't want to come out. No, I don't think so. No, I really think it's more of the fact that he lost. It's the first time he ever lost. And losing for the first time getting beat down, for the first time being put down, something he thought was impossible. Even if he was fighting a Titan with an Infinity Stone, something he did not think was possible. I think you're seeing a Hulk who's completely had his confidence shattered. I think we're looking at a Hulk who doubts himself, who's now feels fear for the first time. And that's why he didn't want to come out. Which is why I believe that Avengers 4 is going to pave the way for us to see the most powerful, most rage-encompassed Hulk we have ever seen. I think we're going to see Hulk in his true potential. Because remember, theoretically, there is no limit to the strength of the Hulk. Theoretically, there's no limit. The angrier he gets, the more powerful he becomes. So in theory, there's no limit to his power. And I think we're going to see something. And somebody a little bit earlier in the show mentioned, what if Black Widow gets killed? And Bruce sees Black Widow get killed in Avengers 4. And then it's all bets are off. I don't know. I get chills just thinking about it. That's what I really want to see. Anyway, Young Nation writes, what are your thoughts on Loki staying dead? And why he didn't use the Tesseract to escape with Thor whilst Thanos was fighting with the Hulk? Thanks. There's probably some explanation about why he just couldn't have. I mean, if he had summoned the stone, I don't know that he could have escaped. I don't know that he could have. I mean, maybe he could have escaped. But I don't think he could have gotten his brother. So I don't know. I'd have to see something else. I mean, it's easy for us, and I do this all the time. It's easy for us, without all the information, to create scenarios. Well, this could have happened, when maybe if we were sitting down talking with the Russo brothers and say, actually, no, that couldn't happen because of this, this, and this. Because we jump into the story already halfway through, right? We jump into the story of Infinity War. Like, first of all, we already know half of Asgard got evacuated off that ship. Because the ship exploded, but Thor says, when he's talking to Rocket, that Thanos killed half of my home world. He killed half of the Asgardians. Well, where was the other half? I thought all of Asgard was on that ship. Well, clearly, before we jump into the story, half of the Asgardians must have gotten off the ship. Probably including Valkyrie, probably including Korg and Meek. So they probably all got off the ship. And maybe something happens in all there that explains why Loki couldn't use the Tesseract. Maybe he doesn't even know how to use it. Maybe outside of the staff, which powered it, it's something he couldn't use and something he couldn't harness. I mean, there's a lot of many potential different explanations for it, but it's difficult when we're only half in the know. You know, we jump into that scene really late, so it's difficult to even speculate. My best guess is that he couldn't harness the power of the stone without the staff. I think the staff is what gave him the ability to use the power of it. And just in its raw form, just sitting there like that, he couldn't just wield it. You know what I mean? He needs something that can harness the power of it. Like even Thanos can't just hold an Infinity Stone and harness the power. He needed the gauntlet made to harness the power. That's what the dwarf said, right? He needed a device that could harness the power of the stones. Maybe, I'm guessing, that's what the staff was for the Tesseract as well. But again, I'm just speculating wildly. It's a good question. I'm just speculating wildly here. All right. Kyle Coggins Movie Reviews writes, Tony's still on Titan. I see nobody addressing this. No armor, nothing, just Nebula. Yeah, but he's got Nebula. One of my friends, I think it was my friend Ryan, when we were coming out of my third screening of the film, said, wait a minute, how does Tony get back to Earth? Well, Nebula's there. Nebula can take any pieces of metal and she can put a spaceship together. I mean, she herself is a collection of parts, right? So, yeah, Nebula. Clearly the answer is Nebula is the one who gets him back home. Why should she help him? I don't know why. I'm sure they'll go into it a little bit, but that's the only real true explanation, is that Nebula must have a way to get him home, and Nebula probably does it. It creates a bigger problem, though, if Nebula's not there. Like, if Nebula's not there, and it's just Iron Man sitting on Titan, then he's dead. Then he's pretty much... not Ben Affleck. Matt Damon. Then he's basically Matt Damon in The Martian, just sitting on Mars by himself. But I think Nebula is the answer to the question. How they go about doing that, who knows? But we know Nebula presents a bunch of different possibilities for him getting home. Let's see. Uchiha writes, if Cap dies a noble death in Avengers 4, could Captain Marvel take over leadership? I mean, well, who knows? We have no idea what kind of Captain Marvel we're going to get. Well, she's this in the comics, and she's this in the comics, and sometimes she's this, and sometimes she's that. Yeah, but we don't know what the movie incarnation of her is going to be yet. There are some very powerful people. Doesn't mean they're leaders. Cap is the ultimate. Captain America is clearly not the most powerful in the MCU, but he's the best leader. By far, he's the best leader. Could Captain Marvel be that too? I don't know. Just because she's super powerful doesn't mean she's necessarily the leader. But in the comics, yeah, I get that, but this isn't the comics. So it's a difficult question to ask without seeing the movie. Let's see Captain Marvel first, which is not terribly far away. Let's see Captain Marvel first, and then we can start theorizing about that. It's certainly a possibility, though. Let's see. NTNLV16 writes, sorry, not quite sure how you pronounce that. Hi, Gio. Hello. I disagree with you on the Iron Spider. No AI, no special weapons, extra arms hidden in the trailer. The purpose was clearly to surprise and nod to the comics readers, in my opinion, not make him Iron Man Jr. Well, I mean, hey, that's cool that you have that opinion, and that's great. Your opinion is every bit as valid as mine. I still thoroughly disagree with you. I didn't think it was cool at all. It's such a small window in the history of Spider-Man comics. The Iron Spider thing is such a small window of time that it actually happened that, I still really feel it was, we don't know how to make Spider-Man cool. You know what people love? Iron Man. Let's make Spider-Man a little Iron Man. Yeah! And that's basically what he is. He's Iron Man Jr. So, and I understand that it worked for a bunch of you guys. Awesome. That's great. I'm not going to try to talk you out of it. But for me, it's an insult. It's an insult to the character of Spider-Man that, Spider-Man's not cool enough. We need to do something with them. You know who's cool? Iron Man. Let's make him Iron Man Jr. And let's give him an Iron Man suit with his own AI. And basically, it's an Iron Man suit. The only thing his suit doesn't do that Iron Man's does is fly. I mean, that's pretty much it. And it probably can fly if it really comes down to it. He's got his own built-in Jarvis system. And it just bothered me. But I'm glad it worked for you. I am. I'm totally glad it worked for you. But it did not work for me. I love the character. Love Tom Holland's performance. I love all the Spider-Man-y things he does. But I could do without the irons. I think he could have done all of it without... You could have made him super cool and do all types of great things without making him Iron Man Jr. That's just the way I kind of feel about it. Knuckles 2591 says, do you think Iron Man will die in Avengers 4, this causing Spider-Man to go through some struggles in his new movie due to his mentor dying? Hard to call Iron Man his mentor, when really they've only had like 3 conversations face to face. Really, if you think about it, if you go back to Civil War, how many times have they even spoken face to face? 4 times, 5 times? If you go through Civil War, Spider-Man, and now this, how many times do you even speak face to face? I don't know if that I'd call him his mentor. He's certainly somebody he looks up to. Of course, you have to get over the other problem that Spider-Man's dead. So he has to come back from that. Look, if Iron Man dies in Avengers 4, remember the Russo brothers just said last week, as far as we know, like Robert Downey Jr. has not said anything about planning to stop playing Iron Man. Maybe they're lying, possibly, but that is what they said. The Russo brothers said last week, we are unaware of Robert Downey Jr. having any plans to stop playing Iron Man. So take that for what it's worth. But if they kill Iron Man in Avengers 4, it won't be to give any kind of motivation to Spider-Man. It'll be for other reasons, I'm sure. But that could be one of the fringe benefits, is it gives us another emotional element for Peter to deal with. So that could totally be there. That could be part of it. But I don't think that would be Marvel's main motivation, for doing it. But who knows? Anything's possible. First, they got to bring him back to life. That's the first thing they got to worry about, is bringing Spider-Man back to life. Jessica Tennis writes, which Wasp dusting? My guess, Hope dusts and Ant-Man and Wasp, Janet, go back to the original New York battle, therefore become the original Avengers. Okay, wait a second though, Jessica. Okay. if your guess is that Hope gets dusted, she is the Wasp. Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, Hope dusts, and Ant-Man and Wasp Janet go back to the original New York battle, therefore become the original Avengers. Possible? I'll be honest with you, Janet, I hadn't considered that. That is a possibility. I mean, a little bit earlier in the broadcast, somebody suggested the notion that what if Ant-Man's daughter dies? There's that too. There's Witch Wasp. I mean, I think in this one there's only one Wasp, but I mean, let's look beyond that. That's a possible theory as well. Not one I've considered. I don't think so, but it is absolutely not the craziest theory I've heard so far. There's some intriguing possibilities there. Let's keep an eye on that. There's some intriguing possibilities with that one. Ben Rayner writes, do you think Marvel will hide the resurrection like Warner Brothers / DC did with Superman and Justice League? Probably, yeah. I mean, you can't... Here's the big problem. Here's the struggle. Unless everybody gets resurrected at the end of the movie, that you can hide. That's easy to hide. But if, like, you resurrect everybody in the first act, Spider-Man's a big marketing tool. Black Panther is a big marketing draw. How do you not put them in the marketing? And I think they would have learned the lesson from Justice League about how stupid it is to have major draws in your movie like Superman and not use them in the marketing at all. It's a tricky conundrum they face. Now, it's not a problem if all these guys just are brought back at the very end of Avengers 4. Okay, then you don't have to worry about it, and that's fine. But if you bring them back in like the first or second act, how do you not market that? How do you not market, hey, everybody, come see Black Panther on the big screen again? Like, it's a conundrum. It is a conundrum that you're going to have different departments of the studio arguing with each other over. So it's an interesting problem they're going to face. Tennis Flatto writes, must admit, Iron Spider is an example of something that works in a comic book and not on the big screen. Ideas seem cool, but saw it on screen. Yeah, I mean, and look, you and I think along the same ways, Tennis Flatto, but there are other people who feel otherwise, and that's great. I'm happy for everybody that liked Iron Spider. That's great. I'm just saying it didn't work for me for several reasons. But I'm glad somebody's on my side with that. Knuckles2591 writes, will Spider-Man's dusting have any effect on him in his new movie, Inner Struggles? Well, look, I'm sure when you go through an experience like dying, that's going to have impact on you, right? I mean, and we've seen Marvel do well understanding that their characters still have to deal with the consequences of what happened to them before, right? Tony, we've seen him struggle with PTSD. I mean, because of the events of the first Avengers movie, that's haunted him. I gotta believe that once they bring Peter back, that the events of Infinity War will be something that haunt him a little bit and will help evolve his character. In which way? I don't know. That's going to be part of the great surprise, but I do believe there's going to be an impact. I think they will. Good observation. Luna Comics writes, do you think the super soldier serum partly made of the heart-shaped herb? Oh, that's interesting. I mean, that's a grander scale MCU thing, but I mean, like, how else does Captain America, like, hold off Thanos? I mean, that's a good question. Is part of this secret serum that the professor put together that ultimately turned Steve Rogers into Captain America, could part of it have been the heart-shaped herb? Maybe. Again, this is what I love about these big open forum discussions, is that so many things are being brought up that I had never considered. And that is something that I have never actually considered. So yeah, it's definitely a good possibility. Okay, let's move on here. Drinks on Me, I love that username. Drinks on Me writes, number one, seems like the only advantage Captain Marvel would have against Thanos is Galactus. He's with Fox. Who will replace him? Number two, I believe Ant-Man and his family will hide in the quantum realm at the end of the film. Thoughts? Well, that has to assume that they know what's going on. Okay, number two assumes a couple of things. First of all, it assumes that the timeline will come in parallel with the timeline of Infinity War, and we don't know that that's the case. I have a feeling it doesn't, but we'll have to wait and see. Hiding in the quantum realm, possibility, but does hiding in the quantum realm exclude you from the power of the Infinity Gauntlet? Don't know, so that raises some questions. As far as what advantages Captain Marvel would have against Thanos, we don't know that Captain Marvel is going to come back and go toe-to-toe with Thanos. I'm sure she will play a part in it, but not as much. And again, with whatever happened in the comics, we got to be able to separate that from the movies. The movies are a totally separate thing. So let's not worry about that thing. I am more intrigued by your theory of number 2. About that they become aware of the event, that the cast of Ant-Man and the Wasp become aware, the cast of characters, I should say, the characters involved in Ant-Man and the Wasp are aware of what's going on with the events of Infinity War, and then possibly shield themselves by going into the quantum realm. I just had a thought, too, that breaks my heart. What if Luis gets dusted? Oh, I can't handle it. I emotionally, I don't think I can handle that. I don't know that I can handle the idea of Michael Peña's Luis getting dusted. I will cry. I didn't cry at any of the other people dying in Infinity War, but oh my God, if Ant-Man, at the end of Ant-Man and the Wasp comes along and Michael Peña's Luis dies, I'm going to break down. I think I will seriously break down. I can't handle that part. Hopefully, if they do what you're suggesting, Drinks on Me, and they jump into the quantum realm to shield themselves from the effects of the Infinity Gauntlet, I hope they bring Luis with them, because otherwise I'm just not going to be able to handle it. I'm going to cry like a baby, man. Okay, Michael Jones writes, "You're right, that scene with Thor and Rocket was very emotional, and I love Rocket's last sentence, I got a lot to lose." Oh my God, that scene is seriously one of the best scenes, I believe, Chris Hemsworth's finest scene. Out of all the times he's played Thor, that scene, with him projecting both the joviality of Thor now, because he's a very jovial character now, the confidence and strength of Thor, yet the utter brokenness that he feels as he recounts, "I've just lost my brother. My father's gone. Had a hand in killing of my own sister. My home world is gone. Half of my people have just been murdered. And Heimdall, who's my best friend, dead. The Warriors 3 are all dead. I mean, I lost Jane." I mean, it just, like, what else? And then he ends that whole thing with, well, like when Rocket says, "And what if you're wrong? Then what else do I have to lose?" It was Chris Hemsworth's finest moment, I believe, playing Thor, ever. I think it was his finest moment. And you're right. It was both funny and profound with Rocket's follow-up with, "I've got a lot to lose." Like, it's funny, but it's also profound. Like, hey, I got something to lose. It was such a marvelous scene. An absolutely fantastic, one of the finest scenes in the entire movie. I just loved it. You know what? I put that scene above the scene of Peter dying. I do. I put it above Peter dying. I really do. Absolutely loved it. Absolutely loved it. All right, let's move on here. Dakota Barber writes, "Saw Infinity War a second time today and loved it even more. Would you, by chance, happen to know what soundtrack was called when Thanos is staring out at the sunset? That moment hit me more on second viewing. It's a great moment, and no. Again, I didn't even pay much attention to the soundtrack. Even that one moment, I didn't pay a lot of attention to it. So I certainly don't know what the name of it would be. So anyway, guys, that will do it for me. We've gone 2 hours and 10 minutes. I'm getting to the point now that my throat just can't take it anymore. Guys, for all of you who have sent in more questions that I'm not getting around to, don't worry about it. I'm going to take all the questions that you guys have sent in. I'm going to add them to all the questions that got left over from Sunday night's discussion. And I'm going to start airing part 3, and I might have to break it up into 2 parts. It might be part 3 and part 4. I'm going to record those. Your questions will get addressed and answered. I have simply run out of voice to do it myself. Anyway, guys, thank you all so much for joining me for this part 2 of our Avengers Open Spoiler discussion. Thanks a lot for being here, guys. My name's John Campea, and until next time, bye. Bye-bye.